Yo, what's up, everyone? I'm back. I told y'all I'd be doing a reaction video. So, we're gonna be watching a scary video because it's Sunday. And if you've never watched Corey X Kenshin, he does a thing called Spooky Scary Sunday. I'm just in the mood to be scared. We'll probably do another one after this. Look at how popular it freaking is. So, let's go. Alright, spoil that. Alright, let's go. Wait. Nope, we're gonna back it up. And shout out to Hulu for this back in 2018. I'm gonna turn it down a little. It gets a little loud. The Hug. Here we go. Bro, I feel like going here. What you gonna do about it? Walk away, Mr. Tough Guy. Let's get all the tickets, guys. Let's get that giant soccer ball. Or that, something like a panda or something. It's like, get like the highest prize there is. Okay? Ominous music. What's up? Alright, see you later, Pandori. Yeah. Hell.
Sorry, kid. It's dinner time. Even pandas gotta eat.
It's a freaking robot. My birthday. Hi, what a panda show. Now.
Okay. Never mind. Nope. Just gonna stay in the arcade. Later. You sneaky little kid. Aw, I'd sock you in your mouth. Nah, ain't no one gonna sneak. Ain't no one gonna steal my keys. You play too much Grand Theft Auto, kid. You're dead. Ew. No thanks. His face isn't even, like, inside his white fur. Like normal pandas. So no, his face just looks weird. I'm good, I'll just turn you off, man. You're not cool anyways. Can I help you? That's where I draw the line. Turn him off. Just freaking turn him off. It's a robot. It's probably bolted to the freaking floor. Yuck. Nope. Bite him. Bite them arms. Bite him. Ain't no one gonna come help you now, you little freaking brat. Bye. Nope. Ow. Okay, too far. Too far. Too far. He's not gonna listen. Where is everyone during this situation? Just be grateful you even work there. Yeah, now you decide to check. You good, Pandory? You good? I think we all saw that coming. Well, that was pretty good. Let's watch one more for the heck of it. Yeah, that's true. Already seen that one. Seen it. Seen it. That one in the pizza is pretty good. The dark web animatronic. Ugh. So how about that? Let's do the dream. Spooky, creepy pastas, fun. Oh, that classic music.
I wonder how many of you guys actually remember a little place called Chuck E. Cheese. You know,
Yep, I
the
do.
one place where you can play as many arcade games as you possibly can.
Yep, used to have one by my house.
As you want, and the amazing prizes that you would win if you get enough tickets. Boy, that place does have a lot of memories behind it.
Yeah, it does.
For this particular story, I'm going to tell you an experience that happened to me there. Whether you believe it or not, I'm going to tell you to the best of my knowledge, with as much details as I possibly can. And just for the sake of the story, I'm going to change some names around just so nobody else has to worry about privacy issues.
That's good. You're good.
Here it goes. My last memory at Chuck E. Cheese. It was a Friday afternoon, and I specifically remember having so much fun. I was going haywire on every arcade game you could possibly think of. One of my favorites was actually the Jurassic Park game where you have to shoot the T-Rex. Oh my goodness. The amount of time
I remember playing a Jurassic Park game, but it was more like advanced and stuff.
The pizza there was delicious. I remember having half a slice and just thinking this is the best pizza in the whole
Oh yeah,
entire
I
world.
think we all used to do that when we go to
But
Chuck E.
another
Cheese.
item that actually caught my eye was Chucky and all the other animatronics
Yep,
that were there.
that's my childhood right there.
Boy, did it really fascinate me to think if those were actually real or if it was just fake for a show.
Either way, it was still fun to
This
watch.
specific day, I learned the actual truth of what goes on behind the scenes.
You just ruined the story.
It was me, my mom and dad, and my cousin
You just
Junior.
ruined everyone.
That's all I can remember for right now.
Okay.
Me and Junior were actually playing a huge game of tag, and boy, did we like to go back and forth a lot. And on this one particular time, we literally had about an hour until it was time to close.
Okay.
So we really had to make it worthwhile while we still were here at Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, did you have at least tokens?
So it was actually Junior's turn to count, and my
Oh,
turn
okay.
to hide.
Hide and seek.
While he
Okay.
was counting all the way from 10, I decided to go hide in the bathroom. And keep in mind, this is when people are literally starting to leave because it was already almost that time to go. So all I can remember is that I was running really fast, making my way past everybody and then making my way back to the bathroom, try to get a place to hide. Don't ask me why.
Okay.
I
I
was
won't.
just a kid.
We all were.
As soon as I actually made it to the bathroom, I swear all I could remember was that it was pitch dark. And for some reason my head hurt really, really bad, as if I fell down and just hit my head on something. Either way, I still stayed in one of the stalls,
Okay.
trying to really be quiet and not make as much noise as possible. It really felt like hours and hours had went by until finally I decided to come out to see what was taking them so long. And to my surprise, literally everybody was gone.
Oh,
And I mean everybody. It was quite scary.
I don't blame
So
you.
scary that I did not even notice the fact that it was already closed. Chuck E. Cheese was literally a ghost town at this point.
Mhm.
Everywhere
Okay.
I looked, there was barely lit arcade games everywhere. And not to mention, it was super dead quiet. I kept thinking to myself, what's going on?
I'd
Is
bust
this
a
some
window
kind of, like,
open.
sick prank? Or is there something more going on that I don't even know about? My first instinct was to call out my mom and dad and Junior to see where they were at. But reminder, nobody is in this entire building. It's just me,
All right.
alone in the dark.
Mhm.
And
How it
whoever
goes.
else may be lurking.
A rat?
I tried running to the entrance and I found out that the doors were actually sealed locked.
What did you
So they would
think?
not be opening until tomorrow morning. And I thought to myself, fuck, what am I gonna do? So I literally stayed there in this one corner, just analyzing how dark it was and how different Chuck E. Cheese felt while it was after hours. And let me tell you something, the feeling was just overwhelming.
I bet it was.
So overwhelming that I could just feel the silence and darkness crawling over me.
Mhm.
Even though I was really scared out of my mind, I thought it was the best idea to try to go look for an adult, just to see if they can help me get out. And to my surprise, there was nobody there. And I mean, it was absolutely silent from the very moment that I came out of that bathroom.
Mhm.
Everything looked completely different, and it was almost as if my eyes were playing tricks on me because I kept seeing things move out of the corner of my eye. Big giant figures,
Oh.
black figures just moving around through the dark.
Hey.
Just what the hell am I thinking? I'm gonna scare myself to death if I don't try to get my mind set.
You're right.
So, I decided to do a bold move. And I hate dark places, especially when it's dark and quiet, and you got these creepy animatronics just staring at you from a distance. Oh, I can still remember the feeling. It's not good at all. I decided to walk in this very, very corner where there was a doorway that was leading into the back stages. I'm not sure where it led to, but I was for sure that somebody had to be back there. I
Why?
mean, they couldn't just lock me in here knowing I was still inside, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what I thought.
Have you not seen the
When I
horror
opened up the
movies?
door, there was a huge giant hallway that was barely lit by a couple of lights. And let me tell you, like I said, this was just absolutely the most craziest thing I've ever done, considering the fact that I never go any place alone, especially when it's dark and I'm really unfamiliar with everything around me. But I had to get out. I had to do something. So I continued down the hallway up until the point where I came across this one room.
Mhm.
There was a door wide open. I was sure that there was probably some kind of exit that had to be unlocked.
Yeah, there should
Maybe
be,
there's a
right?
security guard around there who's just checking the place out.
Yeah.
And I was really debating so much back and forth for a couple of minutes if I should go through this door, or if I should just go back to where I was.
Just stick your
and
head
just
in
hope
and
pray that somebody
just look.
remembers that I'm still in here. But I looked back and I thought, it's too far to turn back now. Besides, I don't like dealing with the dark too much. So let me just take a chance and see what's over here. And to my surprise, I saw something. I couldn't tell what it was, but all I knew is that I thought for sure this is the only way I can probably get out, unless I want to stay here overnight and have a heart attack because I cannot bear to be in this place any longer.
Mhm.
So, I made the bold move into going inside this room to see who or what was inside. I saw an exit sign, and I was just about to head all the way down and see if the doors were unlocked, but something was in my way. There was a big animatronic of Chucky, just standing there, out of place.
Oh.
And it was kind of weird. Why would they have an animatronic of Chucky
Stay back.
blocking an exit door?
Mhm. This is
Couldn't stand
cursed.
to see the look on this animatronic's face, just staring back at me.
Run, my guy. Just
It
run.
almost seemed as if every time I moved back and forth, it followed me. Every little step I took, it kept its eye on me at all times. I got the worst goosebumps ever that you could possibly imagine.
Why wouldn't
This thing
you?
was literally taller than me. This had to at least be a good 7-foot figure.
Mm-hmm.
But why was it here was the only thing I kept thinking about.
Yes.
And let me tell
Why?
you something.
Is it in this
The
room?
fact that I thought about running away from this thing, the anxiety that I got thinking, what if I turned my back to this thing and it disappeared on me, or if I heard it just laugh out of nowhere and it chased me and I would have no choice but to run for my life. Ugh, I did not want to stick around to find that out. And I was just looking around, glancing to see if there was probably some other way out. And I swear, I was only looking away for a couple seconds until I noticed something about Chucky. His mouth actually opened wide. Why did it do that? And considering the fact that it just looked like a prop that wasn't connected to anything, how is this thing even moving is my question. I have no idea.
Run.
Now I know for sure that this thing is literally creeping me the hell out. And I already got a bad feeling that this thing is more than an animatronic. Because the more I kept staring at it, the more it seemed lifelike. The more it just seemed like if I took one step away from it, something's gonna happen. And I didn't want to find out to see what it was. And the funny thing is, as I was thinking that to myself, I actually heard it laugh when the lights went out.
I'm out. Deuces. You kick rocks. I'm kicking rocks.
I cannot stress how fucking chilling that laugh was when I first heard it. It was enough to get me running in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
I was running.
Haul it.
Footsteps
Haul butt.
Every time I'm turning a corner, every time I'm trying to lunge past a different room, it kept coming after me faster and faster and faster.
No.
All I can remember at this point is that I took a hard right just to see if I could lose him. And I wound up in this mysterious hallway.
I'm good.
My worst nightmare became true. All the lights went out automatically. And after that, it was pure silence. I didn't know what to do. I just stood my ground and I was trying to make extra sure that I did not hear anything coming from a distance, or that I myself did not make any sudden moves that could possibly signal my actual whereabouts. But oh my god, I had the worst heart attack when I heard the laugh of Chucky again.
What you want? No.
At this point, all I can remember is screaming, and then I see him charging at me full
Jeez, that scared me.
Employees are actually waking me up.
Oh, good.
I'm on the floor,
Good.
and then my parents are around me, so is my cousin Junior, a
Good.
few other people. And I kept thinking to myself, what happened? And it turns out that a guest had informed an employee that I actually slipped in their way into the bathroom. So it was true. I did slip and hit my head so hard that it knocked me into this kind of weird dream.
That's
Nightmare,
unfortunate.
oh.
Well, it's still better than
I
actually
was
being
still
in
in
it.
disbelief, and I kept looking at everybody saying, did y'all ever leave? Did this place ever close? And an employee said, no, we were just about to close right now. But luckily somebody found you, otherwise you would have probably been left in here overnight or something.
Oh, good, they found you.
That's a relief.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm going home. And I'm lucky enough that I'm not going to stay a night in this place.
Deuces, he's out.
But, you know, the strange thing is that a few weeks later, that Chuck E. Cheese had closed down. Because
Uh-oh.
apparently there was somebody who got locked inside.
Womp womp.
There was a boy around my age. And the thing was, they never found him after that. It was weird. It was literally only not even 10 minutes after lockup, the parents noticed that their child was missing. And they thought that he was probably inside the Chuck E. Cheese. So when they informed the employees to actually reopen the place again to look for their son, there was no trace of him except for one shoe on the floor. That's all that they could find. And miraculously, and mysteriously, and frighteningly, right in this one specific spot where I remember there was that one door that led me backstage, was the last place where he was supposed to be seen and where the shoe was found, actually. Oh my god, the chills that ran out my spine when I heard that. And I thought to myself, what if my dream was actually a prediction of the missing child? Just what if this kid was left in there and Chucky got him? I guess we'll never know. Nor do I ever want to know. And luckily I'm old enough to say I'll never go back to Chuck E. Cheese ever again. Especially after this one nightmare that I hope wasn't a reality in some kind of other dimension. So, the next time you decide to go to Chuck E. Cheese, just remember, there is more than meets the eye. And you never know, you just may never know what happens when the lights go out.
Shout out to Magic Voice / Cast. Alright, I guess we got time for one more. Nope. Nope. McDonald's horror story from former employee. Shadow Reader.
Now, not only are they not trained, but now they're have you ever tried to what could possibly go wrong? While on his first night watch, Peter sees a shadow figure trying to get into Cleveland's house. He asks him to step away more.
Let's do this one.
Seated love for McDonald's. Ever since, like everybody else here in America, I've grown up on fast food. Ever since I was at least 6 years old, I've always had a deep-seated love for McDonald's. Hell, I still remember the joyful expression that I had when I took that first bite of a McDonald's cheeseburger. Warm beef patty, the melted American cheese, and the ketchup and mustard all blending together with that first bite. It was like Nirvana to me.
Yeah.
Amazing, delicious, and most importantly, fucking addictive.
Yeah.
I'm rather ashamed to say, though, that I had, or in this case had, a rather unhealthy obsession with McDonald's and their food. Any opportunity that I had, either when I was a kid or a teenager, I would go out, oftentimes with my allowance money, and buy myself a couple of burgers and desserts from a local McDonald's to enjoy. This was pretty much a weekly event for me during my childhood, and I had no intention of stopping.
Yeah.
Sure enough, though, my weekly visits turned to daily, and then, because of that, it started to really screw up my body, my health, and, as much as I hate to say it, my relationship with my parents. In fact, it was so bad to the point that I wouldn't even eat anything that my mother had cooked up for me for dinner that night, even if it was something that I genuinely liked. This hurt her a lot, even to this very day. I'm still deeply ashamed of myself for letting my addiction get so out of hand.
I would too.
The final straw to my addiction to McDonald's came when I had started to steal money from my mother's purse.
Jeez.
Some extra meals at my local McDonald's to fill my ever-growing addiction.
Jeez, dude.
My father had wind up, kind of figuring out what I was doing, and just in time, I might add, caught me doing this one day and promptly put a stop to it. Not only that, but after a family meeting, not only was I completely grounded for a month and a half for stealing the money from my mother, but I was also cut off from my allowance and banned from ever stepping into a McDonald's ever again. To try and solidify this punishment, my father had me hand over my wallet and then proceeded to take all the money out of it that I had earned or that I had taken, before handing my wallet back to me. I, of course, complained about this, even bringing up various scenarios like me getting lost, kidnapped, etc., etc., etc. The kind of things that kids or teenagers, in this case, usually like to pull up if their parents take their money from them. Now, my father was crafty about this, and had told me that he wasn't exactly taking my money away per se. However, what he was doing was taking the money that I did have and putting it into a secure bank account to make sure that I had money for more, well, important things other than fast food. So while I wasn't losing the money that I had earned or gotten, it certainly wasn't going to be going to fuel my addiction. As you would have guessed, this pissed me off a good bit. At least for a good month, I pretty much remained completely and utterly pissed off at what had happened. However, after a while, I knew that I had a problem. A pretty bad one, too. This was especially the case when I looked at my weight. And the only way for me to be able to combat this problem was to give up my love for McDonald's. At least until I was able to properly control myself. So for the next 7.5 months, I dedicated my time to exercising, dieting,
Good.
and curbing my addiction to fast food by various
Great.
psychological tests and experiments that I had researched online to try and take away my love for McDonald's. Fast forward during that time and a couple of years afterwards.
Okay, I'm not sponsored by any ads. Okay?
And not only was I now nice and skinny and have a healthy weight,
Good.
but any kind of desire for fast food was officially a thing in the past. My parents were so proud of me. And I'll admit, I was actually kind of proud for myself too. In fact, I was so proud that I actually dedicated to take this part of my life and turn it into a passion of mine. Specifically, I wanted to dedicate my time studying the effects of fast food on the body, using various medical and psychological tests.
That sounds pretty good.
Once I had finally graduated from high school that year, I started looking around for colleges that would, be perfect for my field of work that I wanted to get into.
Right.
It took a little bit to look around, but I finally found one called the University of Detroit. The place was apparently a rather popular college where a lot of professional nutritionists and the like had graduated from and had a pretty successful career. So, after taking another quick look around, I decided that was the college of my choice. The day that I left home into the apartment and to the airport to the college was an emotional one. But then again, when is leaving home not exactly emotional? Of course, I told my parents that I loved them greatly, as well as thanked them for what they had done for me all those years back. If anything, if they hadn't done something about my addiction, I most likely would have either been completely morbidly obese at this point, or dead.
Yeah.
They graciously accepted my thanks, and we hugged for some time before I finally made my way to the airport and towards my new home and, school for the next 6 or so months. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about college life, because despite the hard work put into my studies, it wasn't really exactly that memorable. In fact, I actually found it to be quite, boring and a little bit overrated, at least by school standards. It was really nothing else more than me spending all my time working, sleeping, and then working again.
Right.
And not only that, but also having to keep up with a job in order to pay off those goddamn student loans. Seriously, people, take it from me, do not ever get student loans. They are a ripoff, and they will do nothing good for you. Now, where exactly did I manage to get my job at, you might be asking? As much as I hate to say it, the only option that I had was a McDonald's. I know, probably the stupidest decision on my end,
Yep.
due to my previous addiction,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, there was the only option I had because every other retail job was either not hiring or had found me to be overqualified. As if that really made any kind of sense.
Overqualified is overrated.
So McDonald's was pretty much the only place to actually hire me. So of course, for the next few months, I worked as a fry cook there. I had to take a few classes on how to cook everything properly, where to put the toppings at, and how much sauce to put on each sandwich. It really wasn't that difficult to really memorize and check out, but my God, was it boring and repetitive. Not only was I consistently working in the kitchen area with all those burgers and fries filling up my nostrils, just tempting me to eat everything in sight, but I also had to deal with a really fucked up, sadistic asshole of a boss whose apparent goal was to try and make me and so many other people about as miserable as possible.
Oh no.
I never really understood why at first, but after consoling a few of my employees about the manager, I found out rather quickly that he had a deep hatred for millennials like myself.
Jeez.
And if it was up to him, he would have most likely fired everyone who wasn't much of a boomer.
Damn.
It's fucked up. Yes, I should have reported him to Human Resources. But of course, the fact that this was the only job that I could get, and I certainly didn't want to get screwed over, I didn't. Anybody else could if they wanted to, but
That's on your end, bud.
job that I already had.
Yeah, I
Now,
understand.
despite my hatred for the place and the constant growing desire to stuff my face with a grease-laden cuisine that tormented me for hours on end, I did manage to make somewhat of a decent pay. I mean, it may not have been $1 million, but I was at least grateful for what I had.
Yeah.
However, there was something that I did find rather odd about the place.
What?
And out of all of them, it was more along the lines of the meat that was served there. Contrary to what many conspiracy theorists might tell you, the meat that we receive each and every week wasn't any kind of pink slime or gray goop that was forced into a machine and spat onto the grill to be cooked and served. However, it wasn't exactly the typical frozen meat hockey pucks either.
Really, I thought it was the ones they just throw on the
Chilled
grill.
Fresh, or at least as fresh as you can get, formed burger patties seasoned with salt and pepper on the surface. If anything, they looked like they had came out of the local butcher shop across town, rather than the mass-form pucks that McDonald's corporations usually send off with. Now, of course, at the time,
I
it
thought
certainly
corporate
wasn't
does like
anything
checks on the
unwanted,
on
and
like the
after
food you
recent
arrive.
advertisements of McDonald's brand new fresh beef patties for their, quarter-pound beef patties or whatever. I mean, and the positive feedback from the customers and employees, it was kind of a nice change. I actually do remember one time, serving a bunch of customers who were really in demand for this meat. I mean, it was kind of crazy given the fact that there were other fast food restaurants out there, but a lot of people really seemed to be flocking greatly to this restaurant alone, just because of the meat. And it's funny, because I actually remember asking my boss about where exactly all this new meat came from, or if it was something that corporate or something above wanted to really do to try and clean up their image of them being a crappy restaurant or something. Now, instead of him sitting there and being happy about it or saying anything particularly, he just would stare at me and then immediately become aggressive for some reason I don't even know. And then after a
One of those.
yelling at, he would tell me to go back to work or else that I was fired. Which,
Jeez.
given how much of an asshole he was, it didn't really bug me too much.
Right.
Now, as the final few months of my job came to a conclusion, and with Christmas break coming up my way, also the fact that I had a better job opportunity coming up not too long afterwards,
Right.
I was finally ready to get out of my stuffy dorm room and back to my mother and father's home for a nice change of pace to
Alright.
my otherwise mundane life. Well, I was, until I was called in by the manager, and once I had walked in there, promptly scolded severely about a violation that I had committed from the rule book. This was extremely confusing to me, because for one, I had no idea what the fuck he was talking about,
Right.
and two, he had no right to yell at me like this for a so-called offense that I didn't even know that I did. So as calmly as I could, without wanting to punch every single one of his teeth out of his head, I asked him what it was that I had done. He told me that I had violated the, quote, no taking food out of the restaurant rule. Or at least, that's it in general. It's actually a lot longer, but still. Apparently it was a rule that had been set up by him the week prior to my hiring. This, of course, had made no sense. I mean, for one, I had already taken food out of there numerous times before this supposed rule had came out, and never scolded me once for it. And number two, it was a goddamn fast food restaurant. Why couldn't I take it home with me?
Right. It's fast
I
food.
tried asking him to explain a little bit further, and however, though, with a look that he was going to snap my neck into, he told me that the new rule was that no employee should take any food out of the restaurant for any reason. Also, apparently, any employee who does order a meal at the restaurant, whether they be on the job or not, was only allowed to eat it in store and nowhere else. The drive-thru was also officially banned for store employees as well. And if anybody was taking any food outside of the restaurant, not only would they be fired on the spot, but they would be blacklisted from the restaurant and any other kind of restaurant opportunities for life.
Jeez.
Now, as you might have guessed, the amount of shock that was on my face at this new quote-unquote rule was enough to have my jaw drop all the way down to the floor and all the way down to China. I mean, what the fuck kind of rule was that? How the hell was that not considered at least somewhat illegal? Or at the very least against store or corporate policy? I mean, I would have asked more questions about it, but before I could even speak, my manager screamed at me to get the fuck out of his office and then shoved me out of there, slamming the door in my face as well. Now, almost instantly after that had happened, a red flag popped up in my head. And I took a little bit of time in the break room to kind of think things over.
Mm-hmm.
And as I thought, some of the things that, kind of went in my head started to come up. And even more red flags came up in my head.
Right.
Shop Best Burgers, the heavy amount of people eating there each and every day,
Mm-hmm.
new rules added by the manager of the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
the practical secretiveness of the whole thing, manager literally going apeshit on me because I asked him a simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Something wasn't right about this.
Right.
And of course, I had to do something about it. Now, the thing is, though, I couldn't exactly do a whole lot. I couldn't report him to the police, and I couldn't really do much anything else other than maybe report him to corporate. But then again, I knew that that wasn't going to do much. So, with my own work and everything that I had to do, I decided to come up with an idea to try and really figure out what the hell was going on. One day after work, I managed to get my hands on one of the hamburger patties that we had served at customers.
Mm-hmm.
It was rather simple to get done. In fact, I actually took that patty itself that was actually on an old Big Mac that hadn't been sold that day. I took it and I think I kind of threw it into my purse. Now, why I threw it in my purse, I genuinely have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I did know that I did that. And thankfully, though, I never was reported because of it. Because the one thing I did know is that while a lot of the employees at the McDonald's were relatively lackluster, I wouldn't say lackluster, but really lax on the rules and didn't give a shit, there were a ton of people that really loved to kiss the manager's ass as much as possible. And if anything, they would be willing to report anybody who even did remotely a minor infraction.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the fact that I did this and wasn't able to be found out or reported was a blessing. So, of course, once my job was over that day, I took it back to my dorm room and then proceeded to go down to the laboratory where most of my classes had taken place to further analyze the contents of the meat.
Mm-hmm.
I had thankfully managed to get a key card from my professor, as he was relatively cool with me, and he actually loved doing experiments and things like that there. I actually apparently had later on had wound up figuring out that I had wound up doing a lot more for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what it was, but that's what he told me, and I was quite happy because of it. So when I got there, I pulled out 2 microscopes
Mm-hmm.
and broke up a small sample of the meat patty after properly cleaning the little bit of, sauce and things off of it, and placed it under the microscope and looked into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I saw, I noticed that the patties of various microfibers and tissues looked rather different from what a normal bovine tissue would look like. I
Oh.
kept on examining the meat throughout the night, checking each and every animal sample that had been provided by the school's laboratory.
Uh-huh.
Alligator, cow, chicken, mice, rat, river otter, sea otter, hell, anything else that's literally under the sun that basically was red meat, I checked it out. However, every single test that I did wound up going negative. I think I stayed there for practically hours on end trying to figure something out. And once I came back the last, mammal, the only thing I could do now was make one final test on the burger. With DNA that I didn't think I'd even have to use, but I genuinely was terrified that I'd have to use. Human DNA. I successfully managed to get a bit of a tissue sample from my arm, in the most painless way possible, I might add, and I placed the sample down on another microscope that I had done to compare and contrast the various animal tissues to the meat patty.
Alright.
When I took a look at the microscope, I think I kind of went into shock after that. Now, given the fact that it was practically 3 a.m., I had to keep on checking to make sure. I checked again, and again, and again, and again. I think I might have checked the samples nearly 100 times just to make sure that I wasn't going crazy or that I wasn't just seeing things from lack of sleep. And of course, I wasn't going crazy either. Both samples contain the same tissue, structure, texture, firmness. If it wasn't already obvious, human.
Damn.
The burger was made of human meat.
That's not good.
Full out. Yes, I tried other samples. They all came back the same way. There wasn't even anything particularly mixed in with it. No beef mixture, no anything. I could barely even see any remote additives either. How this was even possible to even be done without there being issues was anyone's guess. I probably would have came up with some kind of conclusion at that point, but I was too freaked out to even try and figure anything out. Thankfully, I managed to keep myself from practically either puking, breaking down, or doing both by getting a quick drink of my water to calm my nerves. At least I knew why my manager was so strict about the whole thing in regards to taking the food out or not. He didn't want to be found out by anybody that might have been suspicious about what was going on. Gathering up the evidence that I had, as well as taking both pictures and video clips, putting them on SD cards, I cleaned up the mess that I had and went back to my dorm room. As you would have expected, I didn't get a lick of sleep that night. Every time I tried to close my eyes, I'd see my fellow employees and customers chowing down on that abomination of a fucking sandwich. The very fact of the matter that they themselves were practically cannibals at this point without their knowledge just caused me to puke at least more than a few times that night. The very next day, as groggily as I was, I grabbed what the evidence that I had in order to expose the place, and made my way over to the McDonald's that I now formerly worked at, ready to get the cops in there and shut this fucking place down. Funny thing about that, though, it's as if someone in the police department or wherever had managed to read my mind and apparently find out the shocking truth behind the McDonald's in question, because when I got there, the whole restaurant was practically swarmed with police cars, FBI agents, and even a few people in hazmat suits taking out a couple of the beef patties that were in the restaurant. I, of course, was a little bit surprised at this and went up to one of the officers, telling him that I had some rather damning evidence about the meat used in the restaurant and that it was extremely important. The officer wound up directing me to his captain, who had introduced himself as Officer David, and asked me what it was that I had there, and what I needed to say. I told him about everything that I had found the night before, about the meat having the same synthetic fibers as humans, my boss going crazy, the amount of meat, the addictive quantities of such, and pretty much everything else. The chief wound up thanking me for my research, and the items that I had in my hands were promptly taken as evidence for the investigation that was going on. The chief was also nice enough to fill me in on what had occurred and why they were even there. From what he told me, a few families in neighboring towns across the street from the McDonald's where I worked at had been rushed to a hospital a few days prior to my discovery of what I had seen. It was unknown what was going on with the family until one of the doctors had managed to induce vomiting out of what appeared to induce vomiting out of a few of the family members. It nearly cost him his license, but honestly, it helped out. And searching through it, there appeared to be a solid hunk of meat that hadn't fully digested. It was then taken to a lab where it was confirmed that the meat in question was human meat, and that their bodies were ultimately rejecting it. The officers and other police officials were then called in, and the families had been questioned about what they had consumed that day or the day before that may have caused this. It was later revealed that all the families had eaten at the same McDonald's that night, and had already started up, and of course, because of it, the cops had already started up an investigation. Searching further into the staff and crew of the joint to look for any potential suspects, it was revealed that my manager, John, if anybody's curious to know, his profile in case had came up on the screen, along with a few other fucked up details about him that had been revealed. Turns out my manager had been working in an underground network for cannibals on the deep web. Not only that, but he'd also been buying off stock from various quote-unquote meat farms to be delivered to the McDonald's where he worked at, as apparently that was the place where most of his cannibal buddies like to sit there and work on. Well, stay at and work with. And turns out he was also making a good fortune just by doing this. Now, of course, even as I speak, the rest of the details haven't really been uncovered just yet. The case is still going on, and while I can certainly say it's still going on hot, it's still taking time for everything to be, well, examined, evidence to be processed, and things like that. Although, if my new friend has told me, the officer has told me, he's likely to get life in prison.
Yeah.
As for me, well, after that entire thing, I obviously didn't go back working there again.
Yeah.
I didn't want to work for a place like that any longer, and it's funny. I used to be an addict for McDonald's hamburgers, but after this whole thing, I can safely say that I've officially crossed out McDonald's from my diet forever.
Correct.
In fact, I think I pretty much banned all fast food from my life, just in case. The only thing really left to say is that while I'm still pretty traumatized about what had happened, it still does me some good to know that at least my sick fuck of a manager has been stopped for good. Not sure if I can say the same for the underground cannibal club on the deep web, but
Jeez.
either way I have faith that whatever happens, they'll all get their comeuppance sooner or later. They all will. I'm gonna love every single moment of them rotting in prison.
Alright, that's gonna do it for now, guys. Later.